Hey everybody, Mortis here. We're back again with another segment of Rust Electricity School, the guide to teach you how to become the best Rust electrician. And in today's segment, we're going to show you how to be able to create a backup battery system for that panel grid and the wind turbine that we combined in the previous video. Now, for this system, it's primarily set up because during the night cycle, when your solar panels aren't able to get those juicy UV rays, sometimes it can look like you forgot to pay your power bill. So how do we set something up so that way, when those solar panels are turned off, you can still make sure to have your base nice lit up and those turrets rocking and rolling? Well, let's set this up. Alright, so for this particular setup, we're going to be talking about a few different things. First, we'll go over the components list. What you are going to need is going to be two branches, a blocker. We're going to be using the large battery for this. And you're also going to need an OR switch. Now I'm going to be showing you two different setups. One is going to be a smaller setup that'll produce a little under 100 power. The next one is going to produce a little over 300 power. Now keep in mind, this is going to be purely for your night cycles. So whatever you need to ensure that your turrets and lights and things that you need running for your night cycles are going, that's really all you're going to need. However, if you're like me and like to set up a large amount of power to run a bunch of things for whatever you might need, this does work. So we're going to show you the smaller setup here, but we're also going to talk about the components because the blocker and the OR switch are a main key component in here. Now the OR switch is a little bit of a more complicated piece of tool. We have two different inputs on these, input A and input B, as well as your standard power out. Now as you can see, there's no toggle option. A standard switch would normally have the little option where it says turn on or turn off. However, this one is purely just for splitting out your power. So your input A and input B would normally be a power source, and whatever you're going to be putting in here, whatever the highest of those two are, is going to be what it sends through. So I have 200 power coming into input A, but I have 100 power coming into input B. It's going to send out 200 power, not 300. It does not combine them together. It is whatever the highest of the two sources is. But then the blocker here, it's a little bit more simple. It's got your standard power in and power out. However, what makes this bad boy special is this block pass-through. Whenever this is receiving power, you will actually be unable to send power through to the power out section. So when this is receiving power, whatever's coming into here is going to be stopped right here. It is not going to be able to go out to the power out. That's going to remain at 0. So something very important for this particular setup that we are going to be doing today. Now to set this all up, what you are going to want to do is take two branches here and then an OR switch here at the top. And then also, you're going to want to make sure to place down a large battery. You can place these wherever you want. I do have these a little bit of spaced out just for cleanliness. And then you're also going to want to place down a blocker. So what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to take our main power out. This is the combined power out for our solar panels and our wind turbine here. So we're going to go ahead and take this, and we are going to take it over to the first branch. Now we have 369 power coming in. Now we're going to take the branch out section and go to configure. So because what we want to make sure is that whatever power we're going to send is going to be what we need to power our base. So if you need 200 power or more, you need to ensure that this is matching that amount. So we're going to make sure, so for this one I've got it set to 301. Every component uses one power. So for example, if we're tying it into this OR switch and I want to make sure I have 300 power coming out, I'll set the branch out power to 301. So now we're going to take that and just plug that into the input A section of the OR switch. Alright, so now we have the green light lit up and we have 300 power out of our power out section. So we have the first part of our grid kind of set up here. Now, what we're going to do is take the power out section. As you can see, there's still 67 power left over, so we're going to make sure that gets all used up. So we're going to put that over into the second branch that we set up. And then do not touch the the branch power section on this branch. This does not need to be changed. It needs to stay at 2. Because what we're going to do is we're going to wire this up to our block pass-through. So we're going to go ahead and change the wire color here. Now, for anyone who might have missed it in the previous video, if you want to learn how to set this up, all you're going to do is get out your wiring tool, hold R, and it brings up this nifty little color wheel. If you want to color code your wires, very easy to do. So we're going to go ahead and set up a red wire here, because it's going to be what sets up our block pass-through for our branch. So we're going to go ahead and set this down here and put that in. So now you see it's getting power. It's got a green light and a red light. This is what tells you that there's no pass-through going to be happening. When they're both green is when you know that you have pass-through. Pass-through just means that your electricity is flowing from down here up to here. Otherwise, if it's like this, it's stopped right here in the middle. Will not go anywhere. Alright, so now what we're going to do is we still have 67 power to be able to use. Now I know that's a little high for a single battery, but the idea is that if you're going to be running a single large battery, you're also probably not going to be running the 16 panel field. So, I mean, if you are, awesome, it'll recharge your battery very quickly, but I will say it's a little unnecessary. But we're going to go ahead and make sure we're on the default here. We're going to run the power out of that second branch. We're going to run that down here to our battery. So what this is going to do is charge our battery. So now you can see our battery charge on the capacity section at the very bottom there is going up. So now we have our panel field, which is putting out 300 usable power. And it's also another section here, which is charging our battery. However, we want to make sure that we can still use this battery should our solar panels shut off. So now what we're going to do is go to the power output. Keeping with the theme that I'm setting here, we're going to switch our wiring tool to green. And we're going to take it all the way down here to the blocker. Now the power output is wired in and goes into the blocker's power in section. The blocker's power out section is going to go over to the input B on your OR switch. So like we talked about, how you have two inputs on the OR switch, whatever the highest of the two is going to be what it's set. So right now, because when this is all active and the solar panel field is functioning, that blocker is blocked because the block pass-through is coming from the power that's being set from the solar panel field. So now our battery is charging and there's no active usage. And this is where you can tell. You see a little active usage part in the second row there. It's at 0, which means that we can go ahead and make sure that life safe that our battery is being charged without being used. Now what happens if our solar panels run out and we need to make sure that we can use our battery? Well, this is all we do. So this combiner right here is what controls my solar panel field. So I'm just going to disconnect this so our wind turbine is still active. And then, as we can see here, both lights are now green. However, what I'm getting from just my wind turbine is 63. What's coming in from the blocker is 99. Now the output is 98. So this means that even though I'm getting power from my wind turbine, you are now only getting 98. So this is how you can make it so you have your backup battery system, because as soon as I reconnect these back in here, you'll see. Boom. Now this is back to red, this is back to green, and that's back to charging. So very, very easy. Now let's show you how to set up something a little bit larger if you like to build trap bases, or let's just say you need a little bit more than just 100 power for your night cycle. Alright, so for the larger grid here, we are going to use 2 more large rechargeable batteries. So we have 3 here total now. Now, as you can see, we have also placed up a couple more components. We have placed down 2 root combiners, and we have also placed down a splitter. Now, a quick explanation as to what the splitter does is that it just splits whatever power is coming into it into 3 equal outputs. So if you have 75 power going into the power in section, it's going to split it into 25 on each one of these if you have something running off of each line. Now, what we're going to do to wire this all up together so we can ensure that we have a little bit more power for that night cycle is we're going to go ahead and we're going to take the power in section and make sure we're following our pattern. Alright, it's still on the default. We're going to go ahead and take that and run that up over here. We want to make sure that this is being run to the splitter. So what's going to happen is our splitter is going to be what charges our batteries now, because as we have 3 batteries, we want to make sure that all 3 are getting charged equally. This is to make sure that one battery isn't running low and then you have power running in one place and not another. So now that we've got these hooked in, so we got the power in part of all of our batteries hooked up to the power out for all of our splitters. Now we're going to take the power in section of that splitter and we're going to bring it back down to where we originally had for that on that second branch here. We're just going to put that into the power out. So now we have 102 power, which is coming out of here, being put into the splitter, which is now creating 33 for each battery. This one's getting 34, so I think I'm going to go ahead and just configure this a little bit, and I'm going to change that branch off to 3, just because I do like them to be even. So 34, 34, and 34. Perfect. Alright, so now we have all of those being charged up here. As you can see, they're all going up. 102. It's going up at a little bit of a slower rate, but that's okay. Realistically, because of the fact that Rust does have longer day cycles than it does for night cycles, you'll be losing this power a lot less than, I think, than anything else, really. Alright, so now, we need to make sure that this power is all usable. So we're going to go to the power out section, and because this is going to be part of our main power, we're going to switch over to green here. And then we're going to run it down here to our root combiners that we placed. So this just allows us to ensure that this is all coming in as a single power source rather than trying to do it as 3 separate sources and make it a little bit more difficult than it needs to be. So then we're just going to take all of these are going to be from the power out is going to go into the root power. So root power 1, root power 2, both of these are going into the power output of these batteries here, and then this one is going into this root combiner. And then we're going to take the combined power out of the root combiner and put it into the root power here. Now, if you were looking for a little bit more of an in-depth explanation as to how root combiners work in the previous video I placed, there is a better explanation on root combiners, which is why I'm just kind of brushing over it right now. Alright, so now what we're going to do, though, is we're going to go ahead and bring this over to our blocker. So now our blocker, its input is going to be now 300 rather than 100. However, because it's still blocking pass-through, it's getting no power. So now we have 3 batteries all hooked into our blocker, and as you can see, even though its active usage is now set to 3, we're still going up. We're not going down. We are gaining charge, not losing charge. So even though with this particular setup, you do have to lose a little bit of power, you can't just block it off to make it so that way you can have that ultimate block off. Unless you do it into 3 separate power sources, of course, but if you want a combined source, you do have to sacrifice a little bit of power. However, because of the size of the panel field, and you can extend this if you wanted to using the same principles, there's really no need why you would really have any concerns. You might just have to play around with what works best for your power output needs. But as you can see here, we still have our panel field is setting out 301, which is where we get the 300. We'll go ahead and we'll just take that off again, just deactivating our solar panel field. Both lights are green, and our output is now 298 because we have these 3 batteries going through a blocker and then into the OR switch. Into the root combiners, into the battery, and then the OR switch. So we are using a couple different components to be able to get everything to work. However, it is making sure that we have all 3 sources into a higher output and still charging. Because as you can see, even though I've only had these going for maybe a couple of minutes, these do have an hour or 2 hours. This one's got 5 hours, so the batteries do charge up very quickly with this system. Now, I do hope that you enjoyed this video. There will be more videos to come explaining switches and different activator types, as well as a more complex component list as well. So do stay tuned for further videos, hit that subscribe button, and if you have any more feedback or if you have anything you'd like to add to the videos, please let me know through the comments section or direct message. I'm always happy to talk with any of my viewers. So I hope you guys enjoyed this and found it informative, and as always, happy gaming.